Hi everyone, it's Emma Watson here, and today we're going to have a chat about recovery in the longer term from food incidents. And I have with me, of course, my dear friend and colleague, Sue Hughes. Good morning to you, Sue.
Hello, Emma. How are you?
Really well, thank you. So, Sue,
Good.
you know what I'm talking about when I say the longer term recovery from sort of food incidents, these sort of mini binges that we've both experienced.
Oh, absolutely. But I chatted an awful lot in our last newsletter. I'd really love to hear your take first. You know,
Sure.
I'll
Well,
use.
look, I've got lots of examples to share on
Oh,
this. I
please
think
do.
overall, the message would be from me that what I've noticed in my recovery over, gosh, how long has it been now? Oh, must be about 15 years. Is
Mm,
that the threshold for what tips me into that kind of behavior has just gotten higher and higher? And of
mm,
course, rarer and rarer. So the last time would have been 2013, and I had just this horrific month where, you know how they say bad things happen in threes? Well,
yeah.
bad things do happen in threes, and it was three pieces of really bad news. Things like my dad getting diagnosed with a blood cancer that I thought was going to kill him and kill him rapidly. He's actually still alive and well, but didn't know that back then. And losing a friend in very tragic circumstances. And something else came up too. And there were a couple of days there where I felt out of control with food.
Mm,
And it took me a couple of days, but I got some help. I did some tapping and things normalized again. But
mm.
yeah, when the threshold gets high enough, it can still tip me over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I completely get that. And yes, it's interesting because when you're in emotional turmoil and life throws its lemons at you, um, for me, it's a much longer period, as you know. Um, I'm not proud of having had over 50 years of food issues, but it is what it is,
Mm.
and that's my default mechanism. Um, so I was so uncomfortable feeling the feelings when emotional stuff happened, and I needed to keep it all together. That food was a really good anaesthetic for me. But I've noticed, in the past couple of years in particular, and we're talking long term for me, definitely. It's like turning around a super tanker. So I'm really pleased that we have such different stories, same results, but in a totally different way. But recently something happened which in the past would have tipped me over. And yes, I had one or two things that aren't part of my normal diet anymore. But I noticed two very interesting things. First of all, I didn't want to continue into a binge. And second of all, I noticed how my body wasn't satisfied with it anymore. It wasn't fulfilling that same function. And that was really interesting to me. I'm pleasing, but not pleasing in that, oh, great, that means I'll lose weight. I wasn't driven into that. It was, as you say, the normalizing came back really quickly. And I was just reflecting on it the other day, and I've been tapping for about 10 years now, and 10 years worth of tapping does get into the system, and I don't do it that
It has an
well.
amazing cumulative effect, doesn't it?
But it does. It is that, and it is a cumulative effect. It's like I was going to say it's like taking a drug for 10 years, but in a sense it is,
Mm.
because of the constant making sure that my system is calmer and more able to deal with bigger stuff.
Yeah, I was reflecting. I remember, so this would have been in the early 2000s. So I was really in the throes of my eating stuff, and I remember seeing a naturopath for some issues I was having at the time, and she said to me, "Are you in a stressful job?" And I remember saying, and honestly meaning it, no. And I look back on that, and I feel like just laughing. I was just, to me, it was normal. I was in a team, and we all worked the same kind of job, and we all had the same kind of life. But looking back, it was so stressful. And I was using food to manage that stress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you use now if stuff kicks off?
Look, I spend a lot more time feeling my feelings, and that is really uncomfortable. That is so uncomfortable, Sue. For a lot of my life, I didn't even know most of the time what I was feeling. And I was very good at using food to stuff it down very quickly. So feeling uncomfortable feelings is something I do a fair bit of now, and it's challenging. My daily meditation practice really helps. My daily tapping practice really helps. But I find myself doing things like in 2013, the year my dad was really ill, he had, intensive treatment. And sometimes the treatments were harder on him than the actual illness. And, there were a couple of times that were really difficult. And I found myself taking a lot of baths. And I remember being in the bath one night and I was thinking, this is interesting. Why am I doing this? But it's pretty healthy. And it was because I had tapped years prior on, I want to put in a healthier response. I didn't know much about self-care back then. And the only thing I knew was you have baths. And I am convinced that kicked in years later. So I'm convinced it did.
At the right time, these solutions.
At the right time. Yeah.
You can't force it, can you?
No.
That's another interesting thing. I mean, I now have I've got myself a new sewing machine. I used to do a lot of sewing when I was younger, and we have a room at the top of our house which is really peaceful, really light, lovely room. And I've set up my sewing machine there, and I take myself up the 2 flights of stairs away from the fridge. And yes, I mean, you could monitor my emotional state by the amount that's coming out of there, perhaps. But it's just but it's breaking that state, and it's getting yourself into another area of, that sounds a bit strange, but another area of being, really.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Yep.
So it's a distraction, but it's not it's a really healthy distraction.
That's right. It's not.
My hands are busy.
Yes.
My hands are busy.
Yes.
My mind is busy, but a different part of my mind that would have been obsessing with the causes of what was leading me towards the fridge. Because you have to concentrate, because otherwise you make a mistake. It's great.
Yes, and that needle is sharp.
It's very sharp. Yes. Oh, Emma, it's great chatting to you about this.
You too. And an idea occurs to me, Sue, that I think we might chat about sometime soon, about something about food as a way of harming ourselves, kind of a subtle self-harm.
Yeah. No, I remember that stuffed feeling, and almost going beyond the stuffed feeling, because then, and I'd never went down the bulimia route, but it was almost like a purge. Yeah. But for another time.
Yep. Next conversation or sometime soon. Thanks so much for your time, Sue.
Thank you, Emma.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.